Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the channel. I am Brian Lusk. Thank you for joining me today. Glad to have you here. We're doing a special edition of tonight's stream. It's been some really big news today, and I want you to know that a lot of the information has literally been confirming even as the day has been going on, and there's even more. Now, today will be specifically focused on this very interesting asymmetric attack carried out by Ukraine against Russian aviation in Russia itself. So we'll go ahead and start off with the view of the major source we're using today from the BBC News. Now, there's a lot of live reporting that happened on this throughout the day today. They got a decent overview here. Ukraine claims to have left more than 40 Russian bomber planes burning in a large-scale drone attack. So there's a lot of things to talk about here. It was called Operation Spiderweb. I'm going to go ahead and just drop the link in the comments so you guys can look at it, and we'll move on to a variety of sources that have basically confirmed a lot of what's going on. So let's go ahead and jump straight in and see what we have. So what exactly happened? Now, of course, if you were paying attention at the start, you saw the footage here. This is a smaller clip of only 14 seconds showing a drone attacking, basically drones attacking multiple of these Tu-95, Tupolev 95 bombers. And overall, in this one clip, I saw 5 aircraft in total destroyed. Now, I say destroyed because that's the type of damage that's not exactly going to let it take off tomorrow. We'll just say it that way. And this was deep inside Russian space here. So a lot of people are like, well, how in the world could Ukraine have pulled this off? According to the various satellite images from just a couple of days ago, on the base, 2 of the bases that were involved in today's attack, there was a ton of nice ripe targets available to be attacked. Now, I'm not going to go into all the details on all of them, obviously, but total of 4 air bases that we know of were attacked. Robbie, glad to have you here. Always happy to see your smiling face. Now, Ukraine's SBU has struck, according to Ukraine, over 40 aircraft now they said Olenya Air Base, but it was actually 4 different air bases that were struck. This includes an A-50 AWACS plane, and Tu-95s and Tu-22s, which, again, these are the backbone of Russia's aviation attacks on Ukraine. They carry the KH-101 missiles that are launched, I think, 8 at a time from these aircraft, and they've been pounding the daylights out of Ukraine for well over the last week, ever since there was any talks of potential peace talks. Russia has gone whole hog, attacking civilians all across Ukraine. There was word, although this is, I'm going to put this in slightly into the rumor mill territory, that an airfield in the Moscow region was targeted, and they're both small local strips or training centers, according to Knoll reports. But the amount of smoke indicates it was not just small, say, Cessnas that were attacked on those strips. So they were probably hosting significant military supplies, at least on those airfields. Another video, copy of the same video. Again, the number of videos that have actually come out of this have all been based on this one set of attacks. So we do have to be careful about confirming things. Overall, it looks like the number that probably got taken out that we know of can have confirmed as of this point in time, about 27. And the Ukrainians are claiming 40 plus, believed to be about 41. In this one, of course, I said there's 4 Tu-95s and an AN-22 transport plane. So again, this was a tremendously successful attack. The Russians themselves have been confirming the attack took place. We have Russian soldiers filming the burning airplanes on some of the airfields. A little bit larger view of that same short video there. From Australia Intel, and usually they're pretty accurate on their information. 27 confirmed destroyed Tu-95 nuclear bombers. Understand, this is the backbone of Russia's strategic aviation. This is what they would use to deliver any of their air-launched nuclear weapons. And whether it's 27 or 40, it's a significantly large portion of airplanes that Russia plane does not have the capability to replace at all. So that's flat out losses. Ukraine's estimating the losses at $7 billion in aviation assets. So what hit him? And now this man is very clear on this. It was this type of drone, not this exact drone or this specific model. And they cost around $430 to $600. And this is what was used to attack these airfields. 4 airfield, over 40 bombers reported by drones of this size. Well, these airfields are all over Russia. They're thousands of kilometers from the front in all reports. How do you get this type of drone onto those airfields? Russia has admitted that the Ukrainian drones hit multiple air bases, saying that the aircraft were just, quote, damaged by fire. But they can't deny the strikes. They're actually calling them terrorist attacks. That's absurd. The summary comes from Yuri Butasov, who's a Ukrainian war journalist, and I'm going to just read this kind of real quick here. At the moment, according to our sources, the destruction of 41 aircrafts of strategic and military transport aviation of the Russian armed forces at 4 bases has been recorded. Some of the drones attacked the target with auto-homing, meaning AI. The results of their strikes will be determined using satellite images. So again, they believe they've confirmed 41, but again, we're going to have to see from actual visual confirmation of the damage dealt. A group of SBU agents transported 150 small attack drones and 300 ammunition, that's 2 per drone, to the territory of the Russian Federation. 116 drones took to the air. There are reports that 2 additional of the delivery vehicles, I'm going to call it that until we get to that spot, were stopped or not in position at the time of the attack. The drones were controlled using Russian telecommunications networks using auto-homing, again, AI. The drones attacked from a short distance during the day in the deep rear of the enemy. The air bases were still covered by significant air defenses, anti-aircraft missiles, electronic warfare, regular patrols with small arms, but the Russians have grown accustomed to Ukraine attacking at night with the large, heavy strike drones. Not these small quadcopter drones that are basically, consumer grade. The attack on Olenia was particularly successful. They hit the planes when they were refueled with full fuel tanks, and a significant number of aircraft burned to the ground. An operation of such scale and with colossal economic and military effect at such a high technological level has no analogs in the world. Ukrainian agents successfully returned to Ukraine, and Ukraine did not suffer any losses. The consequences are military equipment worth billions of dollars was destroyed. Strategic aircrafts which Russia no longer produces were destroyed. The enemy's strike capabilities are weakened, as these were important components of their continual strikes. And they're going to have to spend a lot of money to secure their rear line bases now, not just their front line bases. So how did this attack really happen? Obviously, short-range drones aren't going to get there by themselves. So this footage we're receiving means that the Ukrainians had to be there. They had to be there in person to get this data. Otherwise, they couldn't get it out of Russia. They spent 18 months preparing a special military operation using these storage containers right here. They're basically, looks like 20-foot equivalent units, and they loaded them with these special roofs and with wood and things like that to hold the drones in place for launch. This is what the top of one of those units looks like. A series of drones in these wooden rooftops, and the top of the storage unit, the container, would actually fold to one side and start launching these drones at their target. This is a video of a truck immediately post the attack. You see it caught fire because the Ukrainians didn't want to leave any evidence behind if they didn't have to. That's right, they left behind a self-destruct mechanism for their equipment here. So they launched the drones, and the container itself, being transported on a flatbed, destroyed itself. So this 18-month-long preparation was overseen by Zelensky himself, and with the SBU chief Vasyl Maliuk, who I'm sure I just butchered his name, so I apologize, leading the execution. Now, sources say the complex logistics involves smuggling FPV drones and mobile wooden cabins into Russia. The drones were hidden under remote-controlled roofs on trucks. When triggered, the roofs opened, and the kamikaze drones launched toward Russian bombers. The SBU says that all the operatives that were actually involved in this attack are already safely back in Ukraine, and that any arrests that Russian authorities will likely be staged for domestic propaganda. Now, I'm going to add that, of course, Ukraine is going to say this. So I am going to state that that could be true, and it may not be. But at this point, if there's anybody that Russia claims was involved with this attack that they have arrested, Ukraine is saying it's not their guys. Now, the drones were trained to attack these bombers by being trained on Soviet aircraft from Ukraine's aviation museum. That's right, they used those Ukrainian Museum 295s to train the drones how and where to attack that aircraft. So, symbolically speaking, the Soviet past, which Putin is so nostalgic for, helps the Ukrainian future beat the Russian present. Now, there's some other details that have been coming out, and some of this is going to fall into speculation. And the reason I'm going to say it that way is because the Ukrainians have already claimed that they smuggled these drones in and the containers that they were in into Russia. But this source states that they were assembled in a warehouse near the Kazakhstan border, meaning they set up logistics, smuggled parts, and launched the operation deep inside enemy territory, all while under invasion. That is asymmetric warfare. That is impressive coordination and intelligence operations. Now, even as they smuggled those in, they still could have assembled them on site as part of the operation, because it's a lot easier to smuggle a teeny tiny part than it is to smuggle an entire drone or an attack munition. But they managed to get this all set up inside Russia. In fact, President Zelensky bragged, and I'm going to use that word very carefully here, bragged that the office of their operation was on Russian territory, directly next to an FSB headquarters in one of their regions, right under the Russians' nose. So that's basically how it happened. Special containers that were assembled with drones in the top. They actually hired Russian drivers to take them to the pre-planned location, telling them that they would be met at those locations to transfer their cargo. And when they got there, the signal was sent or whatever was required, and the roofs of the containers pulled back. The drones took off and attacked the airfield. In fact, one of the truck drivers arrived in Olenogorsk with the driver running around in panic as these FPV drones repeatedly launched from the trailer, and traffic police ended up taking him into custody, where he declared, "I was just going to have someone meet me here." And the drones continued to take off right under their noses, and they hired Russian drivers to do the delivery, who were likely entirely unaware of what the contents of their cargo were. So let's run into the realm of speculation here. And I'm stating that directly because some of this stuff still remains unconfirmed, and I am not confident in this information for a bit here. For instance, Jason J. Smart, journalist from the Kyiv Independent, the Kyiv Post. I apologize. The Kyiv Independent people will probably come and get ticked off at me later. Sorry about that. Or the Kyiv Post people. Jason J. Smart states that Russia may have lost a nuclear submarine in today's attack by Ukraine. And this, a few people have claimed that a naval asset was struck. Nobody has provided video or other evidence. There's reports that there was fires in the area. However, there's also airfields in the area that were likely the actual target. Therefore, I've put this into speculation. At this point in time, I cannot confirm it or outright deny it, but it is something that is being reported, and you need to be aware of it. Now, then there's the fun part. Ukrainian officials stated that they had notified the Trump administration about this attack in advance. But according to CBS News, the U.S. was not warned that Ukraine was attacking Russian airfields today. There's been no official comment from Trump or his administration as of this time, to my knowledge. So this is where we get into my speculation here. Did the U.S. know? Did the U.S. not know? Have you ever complained to the cashier at your grocery store about the price of the groceries you're paying for? Or the cashier at your gas station for how expensive the gas is? Yeah, that means you've now notified the company about how displeased you are with their prices. And yet, where did that information actually go? It went nowhere. So my theory, and this is entirely speculation, so I'm just kind of having fun for a moment here. My theory is they advised some low-level official in the Trump administration, as in probably at the Department of Defense, hey, we've got this operation going on. It's going to be going at such and such a time. We're going to be attacking these airfields. And the person was just like, why are you telling me? That's not my job. But the U.S. was advised. They were informed. And so was that what happened? Or did they send the notification right before the attack took place? And it just takes time for it to get up to the big bosses at the top. I just don't know. And I just don't know that the Ukraine actually sent that notification. We have only the words of the two sides to say it. Ukraine may have sent the notification. They may have sent it to the equivalent to of the cashier at your grocery store. Or they may have sent it too late for it to be of any use. If they sent it in a way that was extremely good for their operational security. And if they didn't send it, that was even better operational security. Telling the Trump administration at this point may in fact be just as easy as telling Russia directly. But we don't know this. One way or another, the two sides claim at this point in time that they sent it or they didn't send it. Take your pick on which one you believe, or how it may have been sent but not gotten there. So the next several items are probably unrelated to what is now last night's attack, because we're now on to tonight's attacks. This one I don't think is related in any way, because it's been going on for 4 or 5 days. There was a fire in the Karanorsky open pit mine, which turns out to be a coal mine. That's apparently been burning for about 5 days. Nobody can put it out. Hi, Jerry and Lucille. Glad to have you both here. This is going to be a short one today because we're focusing on this specific event, this specific attack. So this one's probably not even related. It's probably just Russians being Russians, but interesting nonetheless. Possibly related, Ukrainians have struck a train that was crossing in occupied Ukraine headed towards Crimea. And the train had fuel cars and freight cars and went up in really impressive fashion, derailing the train and causing damage to the tracks. So this is what Ukraine has acknowledged, and that was on its way to Crimea, and more of this key logistic artery at the moment is currently blocked. Now, this is if the tracks themselves are not damaged, it's not even going to take that long to clear this stuff out, a couple of days. But a couple of days can make a big difference depending on what was on that train and how quickly Russia can get through it. Even if the tracks are damaged, it may take, it would only take a few more days to repair or replace them because it's just a landline. Now, if it's a bridge, on the other hand, and there's been some indications of some collapsing bridges in Russia lately, if it's a bridge, that's going to take it down for a few months as they replace the bridge. But either way, this was an attack on a military target in Ukraine, that, or at least in Ukrainian territory, that's being controlled by Russia. Now, the Russian FSB went to a warehouse in Chelyabinsk near the border with Kazakhstan. That kind of matches the other information we have. And they searched this warehouse, and they believe it's one of the locations in which the drones and containers were put together for the attack. So it'll be interesting to see if Russia comes away with anything from this search. We don't have anything on it yet. But let's move to tonight for just a moment here. In Lipetsk, explosions are reported near the airfield. Also in Borisovglebsk and Ryazan, with attacks on air bases reported tonight. So after last night's explosions, last night's attacks, last night's destruction of a tremendous amount of Russian aviation, Ukraine is keeping the pressure on tonight. In fact, those reports can go all the way to attacks near Moscow and other major centers. So this could be an extensive Ukrainian drone attack, probably with their normal heavy attack drones, at least according to the best information we have. Somebody reported, and again, this falls into speculation again, that there were 6 of these containers prepared. 4 of them went off last night, and the other 2 could have been captured or destroyed, or there's a possibility they were used for tonight's attacks. I don't know that. It's interesting, but that is wild speculation at this point in time. So what are people saying about this attack? Well, Representative Don Bacon from, I believe it's Nebraska, stated in regards to whether this was a terrorist attack or some people claimed it was a war crime. No, it's not. But he stated the Russians were using their strategic bombers to fire cruise missiles and other weapons into Ukrainian cities. The bombers were very legitimate targets. Russia bombs cities. Ukraine bombs military targets. And as Ilya Ponomarenko states, just in case, for those fond of very selective virtue signaling, know the mass destruction of Russian strategic bomber missile carriers, which for 3 years have been carrying out barbaric, large-scale attacks aimed at wiping out entire residential neighborhoods in Ukrainian cities and plunging the entire country into darkness without heat in the dead of winter, is not a war crime. The Russian Z channels, as they call them here, are just absolutely in a tizzy. They have been demanding that Putin strike Ukraine's decision-making centers to force it to stop defending itself, as though striking the Verkhovna Rada or the presidential office on Bankova Street is going to somehow stop Ukraine from fighting back. Even killing Zelensky at this point probably wouldn't stop Ukraine. If anything, it would steal their resolve. They seem to believe that if they just destroy the buildings, then the million-strong army behind Ukraine's defense, which has been resisting the full might of Russia and its allies for years, will suddenly throw up their hands and instantly surrender, and Russia will win. They refuse to grasp that Ukraine is not Russia. They're not fighting a million Zelenskys on the front line, but a million Ukrainians, each of whom makes a conscious choice every day to stay and keep fighting, to do everything in their power to save their country against the onslaught of the world's largest nuclear power. There is a civilizational chasm between Ukraine and Russia. And Russia's stubborn refusal to understand or accept that fact will ultimately lead it to catastrophe for launching this war of aggression. Anton Hershchenko stated, Ukraine has once again proven that Russia can and must be defeated, forced into peace through strength. That's a familiar term there. Today is yet another day of humiliation for Putin, just like when the Moskva was destroyed, the Kerch Bridge was struck, the Black Sea Fleet ships were sunk, and Kursk region was invaded. Putin, as always, will pretend that nothing happened and that the goals of the special military operation will be achieved. I don't think there will be any changes among the top commanders of the Russian army either. But without a doubt, this operation will go down in history and will be one of the decisive steps in the war. From Svatoslav, I'm going to just give up on that one right there. I apologize, Svatoslav. But this one right here, this is his commentary on this. What did it actually do? I'm going to scroll down just a little bit here. It fractured the myth of strategic invulnerability. Russia's long-range bombers are more than weapons. They're icons of state power, strategic legacy, and nuclear deterrence. To show that even these symbols can be reached by homegrown Ukrainian FPVs is to crack the Kremlin's psychological shield. Number 2, it inverted the power dynamic. This wasn't just penetration, it was domesticated disruption. Ukrainian drones were effectively nesting in Russia, lying in wait. To security elites, that signals a horrifying new phase. The battlefield is not over there. It's inside the wire. It could be anywhere. Number 3, it introduced temporal dread. The long planning horizon, 18 months, suggests dozens more such traps could be laying dormant. That seeds a different kind of panic, the kind that's not about what just happened, but what hasn't happened yet. And number 4, it destabilizes internal trust. How many people along the supply chain saw those trucks and didn't question them? How many local officials signed off without knowing? In order to combat this, Russia is going to have to search, identify, and look over every single cargo container in the entire country. Top to bottom, inside out. And what about the people who may have been willing participants in this? How are they going to root those people out? This literally puts the entire country in a state of paranoia. From J.P. Lindsley, a journalist with, I don't remember the organization just right now. The Ukrainian trump card. Moscow routinely uses bombers to send missiles to sleeping civilians in Ukrainian cities. Meanwhile, Ukrainians, after a year and a half of brilliant planning deep within Russia, dispatched drones from tractor trailers to destroy the bombers themselves. Ukrainians precisely targeted the technology used to kill them. Moscow indiscriminately spreads death over civilians. Who holds the cards? And finally, we're going to end with President Zelensky's commentary on this operation. Head of the Security Service of Ukraine, Vasyl Malyuk, delivered a report regarding today's operation. An absolutely brilliant result. A result achieved solely by Ukraine. 1 year, 6 months, and 9 days from the start of planning to effective execution. Our most long-range operation. Our people involved in preparing the operation were withdrawn from Russian territory in time. I thanked General Maliuk for this success of Ukraine. I instructed the security service of Ukraine to inform the public about the details and results of the operation that can be disclosed. Of course, not everything can be revealed at this moment, but these are Ukrainian actions that will undoubtedly be in history books. Ukraine is defending itself, and rightly so. We are doing everything to make Russia feel the need to end this war. Russia started this war. Russia must end it. So, what are my thoughts on this operation? It's daring. It's enormous. It is a detailed plan carried out over time. Time that Ukraine didn't know if it had. A year and a half is forever in this war. But Ukraine planned and pulled off an operation that involved their own agents deep inside Russia, assembling these tractor trailers, these storage containers, putting together the drones, arming them, training them, targeting them, all on Russian territory. And then deploying those drones to devastating results to attack the biggest cause of Ukraine's destruction currently available, meaning the delivery of those KH-101 cruise missiles, and a 30% of Russia's nuclear triad, admittedly the weakest of it. Even worse for Russia, it was also the most reliable of their nuclear triad, because the other part, their strategic missiles, they've launched, I believe, in the last few months, 4 attempts at launching their missiles with 4 explosive, devastating failures of their strategic nuclear missiles. And that is my thoughts. Ukraine pulled off an amazing operation. When the details of this one come out, there will be books written about it. This is like winning the Battle of Britain for Ukraine. It's big. But what's Russia going to do about it? That's what everybody's saying, is that the response will be devastating. It'll be enormous. It'll be huge. But what's Russia really going to be able to do about it? They've got 41 of their bombers up in flames right now. And they've been pounding Ukraine with everything they had for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, ever since there was even the possibility of having peace negotiations. So how are they going to give us an impressive show of force? How is Russia going to truly give a devastating blow to Ukraine? A few more missiles? Destroy an important building? Ukrainians have been living with that reality for 3 years. And in some ways, for 11 years. They are resilient. Russia has been trying to crush their spirits. But when Russia throws everything they have left at them, until there's nothing left to throw, and Ukraine remains standing, then what, Russia? We'll just have to see. Will Russia be able to deliver a devastating blow in response? I don't know. I'm not going to bet against it. But I'll bet you Ukraine has a better idea what's going to happen. So let me know what you think of this really amazing operation being carried out in the comments. Absolutely want to hear what you think. Can you picture anything that Russia can do in response that they have not already been doing? Let me know. And understand, we've got a lot more of this war to go. I'm not seeing an immediate end in sight. We already know the Russians have tried to insult their way to provoking Ukraine's delegation for peace. They're already being insulted because they're sending the exact same delegation as the previous negotiations, the ones that resulted in nothing. And yet Ukraine still stands. And that's everything for today. Thank you very much for joining me. This was a special live stream on just this specific attack. The absolutely impressive FPV drone attack on 4 air bases scattered across remote parts of Russia that destroyed anywhere from 27 to 41 aircraft that Russia cannot replace. You have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next video.